All right, today we're doing lesson 4-7, use properties to multiply decimals. I can use properties to multiply decimals. The weight of a small bag of raisins is 3/10 of a time the weight of a large bag. The large bag weighs 8/10 of a pound. What is the weight of the small bag? Solve the problem any way you choose. So here's our information. And how are we going to solve this? We're in multiplication of decimals. We're going to say 3/10 of 1/8 equals 8 times 3 is 24. And we've got 2 digits in decimal place value of the problem, 2 in the answer. So our answer is 24 hundredths. So that's one way to do it. And you have to remember that we are going to be diving into some things that are a little tricky in this topic. So 3/10 is the same as 3/10 is the same as 1/10 times 3. Sorry about that. 3/10 is the same as 1/10 times 3. 8/10 is the same as 1/10 times 8, or 8 times 1/10. So we're going to be taking a look at some of these fractional pieces. So if you have 8/10 times 3/10, 8/10 is 1/10 of 8, and 3/10 is 1/10 of 3. So what we can say is 8/10 times 3/10 is kind of like saying 8 times 3 times 1/10 times 1/10, which is the same as 8 times 3 times 1 over 100. And we remember from the chapter before, the lesson before, 1 over 100th, we're going to move the decimal 2 place values, but we're going to move it in that direction because we're multiplying by a fraction. We're not multiplying by 10, 100, or 1,000. We're dividing by 100th. So the decimal is going to go in the other direction. So this is kind of a little bit what we're going to be doing in this section here. So 8 times 3 times 1 over 100 is like saying 24 times 1 over 100, which is the same as 24, and I'm going to have 2 decimal place values in my answer. So I know that was a lot, but we'll do some practice with it. All right, so moving on to the next page. You want to read over that? How can you use properties to multiply decimals? How can you use properties? And that's what we were just doing. We were using properties of the numbers. So we knew that 3/10 is the same as saying 3 times 1/10. All right. So the length of a bearded dragon lizard is 6/10 of a time the length of a basilisk lizard. What is the length of the bearded dragon? So use what you know about decimals and properties to multiply 6/10 times 9/10. Oh, take a look down here. So what they did here was they turned both the decimals into fractions, and they're using the properties of multiplication to figure out these answers. So 6/10 is the same as saying the fractional 6/10 times the fractional 9/10. And it's also the same as saying 6 times 1 to the 10th times 9 times 1 to the 10th. And remember when you were multiplying, if we multiplied 6 times 10, we're taking our 6 and we're moving our decimal one place and annexing a 0. But if you're multiplying by 1/10, because 1/10 is smaller than a whole, you're moving your decimal one place in the opposite direction. So in this case, our decimal's always invisibly after a whole number. When we multiply 6 times 1/10, we move the decimal in this direction because we're finding a tenth of the whole number. 6 is 6/10. So we're kind of breaking things up here and using associative and commutative properties to rearrange the factors, to rearrange our multiplication factors in a problem. And then we multiply the whole numbers. And when we get 0.6 times 0.9 is 0.54. 6 times 9 is 54, 2 decimal place values in the problem, 2 in the answer. Tyler explained how he multiplies 7/10 and 2/10. I multiply 7 times 2 is 14. I know that a tenth times a tenth is a hundredth, so I use hundredths to write the product. The product is 0.14. Is Tyler correct? And the answer is yes, he is correct. And let's go and do some examples so you can see this a little bit better. So a slice of bread has 1.25 grams of fat. How many grams of fat are in 1.5 slices? So basically what we can do here is we can break apart 125 into 125, the whole number 125, times 1 over 100. And we're breaking up 1.5 into 15 times 1/10. They are the same values. We're rewriting them so we can move stuff around. So using the associative property of multiplication, we put the whole numbers over here and the fractions over here. So now we have 1,875 times 1 over 1,000. And we know when we are multiplying by base 10 and it's a fraction, the decimal is going to move 3 places in the other direction. So we have 1.875. Do you understand? Mason is multiplying 3 times 5 times 1/10 times 1/10. What decimal is he solving? So using rearranging the problem again, using the associative property, 3 times 1/10 is 3/10, and 5 times 1/10 is 5/10. So we know he's solving 0.3 times 0.5. Complete Mason's work to find the product and write it as a decimal. And we just did that. So you can use properties or you can just go through and do the math. 3 times 7 is 21, 2 decimal places in the problem, 2 in the answer. 0.63 times 2.8. 8 times 3 is 24. 8 times 6 is 48, plus 2 is 50. 8 times 0 is 0, plus 5. 2 times 3 is 6. 2 times 6 is 12. 2 plus 0 is 0, plus 1 is 3. Add all that up together. See how many digits are in decimal place value in my problem. There's 3, so I need 3 in my answer. So my answer is, let's see. Wait a minute. Did something wrong here. Hang on. I'm not sure what I did wrong there. Because I know I'm going to be about half. Well, that looked about. All right. So let's try that again. So 63 and 2.8. 8 times 3 is 24. Carry the 2. 8 times 6 is 48. Plus 2 is 50. 2 times 3 is 6. 2 times 6 is 12. 4, 6, 7, 1. Well, that looks better. Because when I was rounding it in my head, I could see that if I rounded 2.8 to 3, and if I rounded 0.63 to 0.5, I know my answer should be around 150. I could see my answer was not correct before. So that's using your mental math to help you see if an answer is reasonable. Okay, next one. 2.6 times 1.4. 6 times 4 is 24. Put the 4 down, carry the 2. 4 times 2 is 8, plus 2 is 10. And x are 0. 1 times 6 is 6. 1 times 2 is 2. 4, 6, 3. I've got, when I round, I would say 3 times 1 is about 3. I know I have 2 digits in decimal place value in my problem. I'm going to have 2 in my answer. My answer looks reasonable. Remember, you're at home. You can always check your work on a calculator. And the next guy, 4.5 times 0.08. I'm doing 45 times 8. And that is 800. So I know my answer is going to be super small. So I've got 3 digits in decimal place value in the problem. I need 3 in the answer. And that looks reasonable to me. So as you're going through, you can do the traditional algorithm there. If you want to do the separating it and putting it into putting the fractions in there using properties, you're welcome to do that. But we need to get the final answer correct. And that's our topic 4-7.